flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to our Candidates Forum, Candidates Night 2014. I'm Jen Jaskula. I'm here as your moderator, as the Union County Council of PTA's president. This evening is being sponsored and put forth by the Roselle Park PTAs and PTOs. I'd like to take a moment just to introduce the ladies that really helped put it together. Jody Floyd, Melissa, Janine, I always will lose it, Ellen, and back is Tracy, and from Sherman School was Jamie Harms. She's not here tonight. We'd like just to give you an idea of how things are going to work tonight. We're going to have the gentlemen read a 2-minute introduction to themselves, and then we'll let everybody ask their questions. As we said, if you have a question you don't want to ask, you can either hand it to Janine or myself, and we'll ask the question. Saul Kirsten is here as the moderator tonight, or the timekeeper, so he will be keeping time for everybody. And just to let you know, I'm a little nervous. I'm not a good public speaker, but I try. So
You're good.
Okay. So to introduce your candidates for tonight, we have Chris Miller, Roderick Bowman, Jeff Vita, and Sanjata Seku, right? Seku, sorry. Okay. And we'll start, I'm going to make it easy. We're going to start right to left. We're going to start with Chris, and we'll read that way. And so Chris wants to open up with his.
Great. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the PTOs and PTAs for making this night possible. My name is Chris Miller, and I'm looking to be reelected to another 3-year term for the Board of Education. And I'm an 18-year resident of Roselle Park, and I have 2 children who go to Sherman School, and one in 4th and one in 2nd grade. And you know, I've been on the board for 5 years. I was elected 3 years ago. I was appointed 5 years ago to fill some vacancies. And I've learned a lot throughout that time. And a lot what I've learned is that the Board of Education is the what. Okay, we make policy and we make decisions where we want to guide our district, okay? But we're not the how, we're not the micromanagers. That's what we leave up to Mr. Garrido, who we hired, to our administrator, to our staff. But with that being said, the most important goal that the board has and that I share with them is student achievement. Having the most optimal conditions where students can achieve at their learning level, at their ability, and their modality, because we all learn differently. That being said, we need to make the most informed decisions. As board president for the past 2 years, there's 3 key components that go into that. The first one is I wanted to get to learn more, to make informed decisions. Well, we need professional development, not only teachers and administration, but also us. And basically, we went through a lot of workshops with New Jersey School Boards Association to become a certified board. So we knew about labor negotiations, we know about curriculum, and many other workshops like that. So that's one. The second one is collaboration. Our board is wonderful. We have a wonderful mix of teachers, we have managers from industry, and also a nice mix where we make rational, respectful decisions. We're not afraid to debate, and we're really involved in making decisions. Last but not least is listening to the community. We listen to the community, and we take our goals and we make our goals, and we listen to the communities, and we want to hear them and respect them. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
It is. It's actually kind of intimidating. I was just waiting for the time.
I can't see it here.
Time's up. It's a negative now.
Your time is up.
We want to be fun.
Technology is
Vote for
great.
God. No, it's not actually. It's negative 35. Great. So, my understanding is that there's over 2,000 students in the school district currently. And I see that as an opportunity
2,000 opportunities to enhance success and excellence within the school district. A little bit about myself. Again, my name is Roger Chabon. I am new to the community, to Roselle Park. My wife and I moved to Roselle Park about a year ago. And immediately, I wanted to get involved in the community. So one of the things that I did right away was, Pedro had, at a teacher's night, put an ask out for community members to be involved in the strategic plan development. Being a strategic planner by trade, immediately I rose my hand and I participated in that project, and I felt that it was a great project, and it was an opportunity for me to work with community members, school administrators, and stakeholders to be involved and to develop something that will enhance the learning of our students in the community, and enhance the professional development of our teachers, deal with critical infrastructure within the school district, maintaining our buildings and facilities, so on and so forth. So if elected to the Board of Education, one of my primary goals will be to enhance coordination between community members, between the Board of Ed, government officials, and all stakeholders to enhance the development and potential of our students, each one of those 2,000 students that we have in the school district. Educationally, my background, I have a bachelor's degree in education, a master's degree in administration, and I'm currently pursuing a doctorate degree in policy. I'm eager, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to cooperate and work as a team to just enhance and ensure the success of our students as a whole in the community. And I thank you for the opportunity to be here and answer any questions you have tonight.
Mine's 35, right?
Minus 35.
First off, thank you to the PTAs and the PTOs for putting on the event tonight. Thank you to the community for showing up. It's gratifying to see a lot of people interested in the board's activities. My name is Jeff Vita. I'm currently finishing out a 2-year unexpired term on the board. It's been an eventful, sometimes tumultuous 2 years, but it's been personally rewarding. Tonight I'm asking you for the opportunity to continue serving our students in our district. Who am I for you to vote for? I've lived in Roselle Park for the past 9 years. I have 3 daughters in the school system now. And I think I've been able to do a lot on the 2 years that I've been on the board. I've worked very hard to establish lines of communication between the district and the community. When I joined the board 2 years ago, I didn't go in over-promising. That always leads to under-delivering. Instead, I did the 2 things that I think were most important for board members. I listened and I learned. I listened to the other more experienced board members. I listened to the administrators, the teachers, the students, and the community. I learned better ways to manage resources. I learned smarter ways to communicate. I took that information and I really made it my mission to open up avenues of communication to the entire community. In my time on the board, I've been able to start redesigning the district website to make it easier to navigate. I've established and administered the district Facebook page. I have started live streaming our meetings so that people can get the information even if they can't physically be at our meetings. And I maintain a presence on social media to at least be a face to help guide community members to where they need to go so that they can get the help that they need. Why am I doing that? Because the students of Roselle Park deserve that kind of commitment, that kind of dedication, that kind of resolve. They deserve no less. So thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, everyone. Hello, my name is Sanjana Sekou. 3 of the main things that I want to do is provide support for the Roselle Park Summer Camp. It's a summer camp that happens here in this building every summer. And in the summertime, I work for the Department of Agriculture. The Department of Agriculture has a program that basically pays towns in order to feed their children. That's one of the first things I want to do. The second thing that I want to do is ensure that our partnership, we have a partnership now with Keene University. I want to ensure that the STEM program that's in place, it will trickle down from the kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. So that means that children who are in kindergarten can have a good background in science, technology, engineering, and math, all the way up to the 12th grade. The third thing that I want to do is bring a non-for-profit here that's based in New York called allstars.org, and it's a leadership nonprofit. Also, it has a paid internship component for students between the ages of 16 and 21. And that's the message that I've taken online. That's the message that I've taken door to door. I've been throughout the east side. I've been on practically every street on the east side. Now I'm on the west side. I've been on every street throughout, well, almost every street on the west side now. So not only am I telling this message, I'm going door to door and I'm listening. I'm knocking on doors, whether it's raining, no matter the condition, I'm out there practically almost every day a week. I'm out there and I'm bringing my message forward. And to everyone who has listened to my message, everyone who has looked at my flyers, everyone who has invited me into their home, I thank you, and I'm appreciative that I live in a community that people will at least listen to my message without even being aware of who I am up to that point. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sajada. So now we're going to open it to questions. If you have a question, you want
Partially asking for myself and for, hi, Tom Roche. I have two daughters in the school system here. Partially for me and partially for anybody who might not understand. Could I get a background of how many people make up the board, how many slots are vacant, how many people can we vote for on election day? Just a kind of a background for the board there.
Sure, well, I can answer that.
Let Chris answer.
Go ahead. To answer how many, there are 9 seats on the board total, and for this election there are 3 seats available. Okay, for obviously there are 4 candidates, and you're voting for 3 seats. Okay, and then next year there'll be 3 more as well. Okay, so it's annual, but that's usually the turnover that we have. Okay.
I'm going to ask Heidi that. Just 1 second. If you have a question, you can come up to the center of the room. Pretend there's a mic there. Unfortunately, the mics are traveling through the district, so they didn't quite make it back here.
I have a three-part. First of all, I'm Pat Pegnetti, and I have a grandson in high school. I wanted to ask all of you this. How long have you lived in Roselle Park? Where are you from, if you're not here, for a long time? And are you a homeowner? I'd like to just hear you tell us that.
Chris, do you want to start?
Absolutely, Ms. Bagley. Thank you for your question. I live in Roselle Park, and I've been a resident for 18 years, going on 19 pretty soon. And it's funny because when I worked I'm a teacher, and I worked up in Montclair, and my wife and I, we just got married. We were down in Belmar, so it was a 60-mile one-way commute, so it was crazy. So let's find a place in between. And we went to Westfield, went to Cranford, and we're going over to our realtor's office in Union. We passed down Grand Avenue, past Sherman, fell in love with the house right there. And we fell in love with it, and 19 years later, or 18 years later, we're still there, and we love it. And I think it's just a great town to be in. And when my wife and I, my youngest is 7 currently, and we said, at the time, just a quick side note is that, when our children are of school age, we'll look for, a better school district. And but before we did that, we went to Sherman School, and we went to middle school, and we met with the administration and said, there's nothing wrong with these schools here in Roselle Park. And we've been there ever since, and that's why I wanted to put my hand in the pot and help out as much as I can and volunteer my time and efforts. So it's, and I am a homeowner. So we've owned our home for 18 years, and so far so good. It's pretty good. Thank you.
Pat?
Yes, everybody.
Yeah. Okay. To
Everybody
everyone.
wants to know.
So yes, my wife and I, we moved to Roselle Park about a year and a half ago. We moved in, Regina, July 4th, 2013. Right? So we're new to Roselle Park. I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey. My wife's from Manchester, down the shore. I met my wife down the shore, and we got married, and we lived a few other places in New Jersey, and then we had a child. And our child, we were most recently living in Jersey City. So it came time for our child to be school age. So as any parent, we want the best for our child. So we looked and investigated different communities where we want to, where we want to set up shop and raise our family, right? And, we looked at Cranford, we looked at Westville, can't afford Westville, right? So we decided on Roselle Park, and, we put a bid on a house, it fell through. And then that same day, we got another listing, so I left work right away, ran down, put an offer on the house without my wife even knowing, and then we bought this house. And it worked out. I have a 6-year-old daughter that goes to Sherman School. My wife is expecting, so we're having a son in January. So we're vested in the community. We're going to be here, and my children are going to grow up in Roselle Park and go to Roselle Park schools. I'm a homeowner, obviously, and I love this community. We've been here a year and a half. Good people, good friends, right away, and I just want to be involved in the community, whether it's volunteering, whether it's serving. I work for the state of New Jersey, so I'm a public servant already, and I believe in public service, civic duty, responsibility, and that's really it. And I'm punctual.
Thank you for the question. My family has lived in Roselle Park now for going on 9 years. I have 3 daughters that are all in the school system at Sherman. Interesting note, about 9 years ago, there was a television show on HGTV, and it featured a family of 3 named the Vitas. That's me. It was a show called Hidden Potential, and they were showing us looking for a house in Roselle Park. So that was the beginning of our journey to Roselle Park. We found a place that we loved. We looked at the community, and yeah.
That's
When we were going around looking for a place to live, one of the things that we wanted to find was a community that we thought was going to be very tight knit. And of course, we were looking for a school for our, at the time, 1-year-old. Doing the same thing that Mr. Miller did over there, we looked around, we asked around about the schools, and we got such great reviews about the schools in Roselle Park. It happened to fit all of the things that we were looking for as a neighborhood. So we actually bought the house before we finished shooting the show. We actually picked a different house on the show, but you're not supposed to know that because it's TV. But we've been here 9 years. The school has been fantastic for our kids. The community has been great, and I've really tried to be as much a part of the community as possible, doing whatever I can. The board has been a rewarding experience, and I'm hoping to continue. What do I do? I'm a graphic designer by trade, so I work in Manhattan. I make ugly things pretty. I'm kind of expensive, so.
I've lived in Roselle Park nearly 5 years, and I get either a bad reaction or a good reaction when I mention that I bought the Kinlocks home. Yeah, some people have been here a long time. They either know that home or they don't. They either like that home or they don't. But I bought that home, and as I mentioned, I've been here nearly 5 years. And one of the reasons why I'm running, because I saw this one day. This is the property tax bill we all get. And it outlined certain things on there. It outlined how much we pay, it outlined the breakdown, everything. And one of the things that I noticed on the property tax bill was the amount. 52.34% goes towards the school system. So when I saw that, and once I read an article that Saul wrote, and my lovely wife said that maybe I should look into running for the Board of Education, I formulate all these things together. And I said, yes, I want to be a part of the process. I want to be a part of making decisions that's going to benefit all the children, not just mine. Mine go to Sherman. I have a child who's 11 months old, well, 12 months old, so he'll be 1 in 2 weeks, that my wife had last year. But I've lived here 5 years. I like the community. I like my neighbors. I like the fact that it's a small community. My wife and I came from Elizabeth. Elizabeth is a big city for us, and we just didn't it didn't mesh well for us in a city like that. We needed something small, we needed something intimate, we needed something quaint, and Roselle Park was perfect for us. Matter of fact, my wife pushed living in Roselle Park more than I did because she worked at McDonald's. This is my wife here. She worked in McDonald's years ago when she was a teenager, and she rode her bike from Elizabeth to Roselle Park. So she was riding her bike through Roselle Park, and she said, one day, I'm going to live in this town. And because of that, and because of her influence in the tax bill and letter I wrote, I decided to run for Board of Education.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And everybody goes to Sherman School.
And of particular note, three of our daughters are in
In
the
the
same
same
class.
class. How did that happen, Superintendent?
I'm going to go here, then you, Jake. Sorry, wait, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Mill Woodruff, I live over in the Bender section of town. All three of our sons went to school here and graduated from here. They went on to bigger and better things, we hope. I have a question for Chris Miller, and I'm wondering what you would attribute the increase in property taxes for the portion that's attributable to the school board. Our real estate taxes went up a significant amount, and most of that was attributable to the school board.
Okay, Mr. Woodruff, thank you for your question. And what to attribute that to? Okay, we had a lot of things to address this year. First and foremost, was student achievement. And also there's a physical plant need. First off, for the physical plant need, we had a 100-year-old boiler in Shermansville that needed replaced. That was the first thing that needed to be replaced. I mean, that should have been replaced, a while ago. But now it's done, it's failed, it's old, it's archaic. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but we had to replace that. And that was estimated at a cost of about $250,000 to be done. Okay, and the other one. The other increases that we have for the school board, there are other increases as far as the auditorium that we had refurbished. Okay, and we actually did that in partnership with the Friends of Roselle Park. They came up with a portion of the money, but we footed a lot of that money. We as a community footed it because we felt that it was in great need of improvement. I mean, that is our marquee for the high school, and that's where wonderful shows go on. And I don't know when the last time that was ever refurbished, but we needed to make a statement. We needed to go in, and there was a community group, and that's one of my points of us listening to the community. The Friends of Roselle Park came to us, and they talked about redoing the auditorium, and they had the money that they raised for so many years, and as a group, the facilities chair, Mr. Harms, we all talked about it, and we came to an agreement that it's worth the investment. Our children are worth the investment. We can't have these old facilities with that. So that was so the facilities were the auditorium and also the boiler. Those are big ones. Other ones were transportation costs that were increasing, and for our magnet schools and for other out-of-school placements as well. And a couple other things. There was a minor cost as well as a full-day kindergarten that we had that was paid for itself primarily, but we had to do a little bit of furnishing for that. So that was most of the bill.
Thanks, Chris. Jeff?
So in addition to all the things that Mr. Miller mentioned, the largest chunk of our budget is for health insurance for the administration, the teachers and the administration. There was a significant jump in the cost of that insurance that impacts our entire budget, and we have to make do with the resources that are left over. It's a struggle every year to try to figure out how to do that without impacting the community. And we're going to be facing a pretty big crossroads next year. But I think we've done a good job in trying to keep that level. Other than the stuff that we really need to do to better these situations where we can for our students, we keep everything else as under control as possible. But that insurance part of it there isn't anything that we can do about it. That is what it is, and unfortunately, that's a huge part of it.
Did that part come from the state, or it had to? Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Ron?
that part come from the state where the mandates on the funding from the state has been pulled back, where all the mandates, the state mandates are going towards the districts, where the districts have to pay for it, and where are they going to get it? They're going to have to get it from the community.
Correct.
That's why the taxes go up.
Correct.
Okay, before,
Sorry.
Roger, or Sujata, would you like to answer
Well,
Mr. Woodrow's
I mean,
question?
I don't know at this point if I'm qualified to answer your question as it relates to why the increase in property taxes. But
You weren't there, so.
yeah, I wasn't. I was not there. Correct, sir. But just in general, I think in many communities, schools make up the biggest burden of property taxes, just in general. So I don't necessarily know or understand, the specific situation with the insurance premiums. But one thing that I like to do, I don't really take no for an answer. So I would like to dig deeper and look at innovative, cost-effective options to see, because to say it is what it is really not acceptable until to me, until I explore, until I understand where we can maybe be more efficient and more effective with what we have within the school district. So as part of what I want to do, if elected on the school board, is to bring an analytic and strategic process to the evaluation of programs, services, everything that encompasses our school board and budget. So
Is there any way to do
Okay,
it?
hang on, let's just do one at a time. I'm going to Sujata.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are we still going with the timer or is?
Yep, we just.
Oh.
you can't do it between you.
Yes, I can. Okay, I can start. One of the first things I did when I decided that I wanted to run for Board of Education is I met with the superintendent and the business administrator. And one of the things they told me, 80% of the budget bill goes to salaries, medical, and dental. So we're in a precarious position at this point. We want to get the best education possible, but in order to get the best education possible, we have to hire the best teachers. So it's a balancing act that our town has to create in terms of providing those things. So what I know is that, as others mentioned, is that the salaries and the medical and dental teachers just take up a whole lot. And what I do know is that the teachers are up for another contract at the end of this school year. So we now have to make a decision on how we're going to balance those two. If we try to get the best teachers are going to cost. And the cost is going to come down to you, me, and every other taxpayer here in this town. So we have to get as much community input when the next budget, when the next teacher's contract come around, we have to get as much community input. And that's what I've been doing as much as possible in the community. I've been going to community. And one of the first things that I hear from people is, what are you going to do about my property taxes? What are you going to do? My property tax is X amount. I don't want to stay in this town anymore. So it's something that we have to balance. It's something that we have to get to a point where we can say, yes, this educator is great, but we can't burden the taxpayers to keep on paying more and more and more. So we have to strike that balance within our community.
Okay. Jake?
Jacob McGarrett, 612 Sheridan Avenue, Roselle Park. Ladies and gentlemen, audience, viewing audience, and candidates, good evening. I'm not going to ask you a question. I commend you, the candidates, for your desire to be part of the community of Roselle Park. You candidates are very impressive, and you folks have talent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jake.
Ellen, sorry. Then Pam.
Hi, my name is Ellen Margarita. I live on the east side of Roselle Park. My daughter's in Robert Gordon, and my son went through the schools here a long time ago. He's graduated, thank God. I have a question for Ms. Sojata. I actually lived in Manhattan, and when my son was in middle school, I contributed to the All-Stars program. I
I don't think he was part of it, but they were very active in the school. But I recalled it was kind of like theater or a sports or like what was your take on the All Stars program?
They have, thank you for your question. They have different components. So one component is development school for youth. That's the program that I'm targeting. They have 3 programs. They have a theater program, and they have the leadership and the paid internship dynamic. That's the one I would like to bring to Roselle Park. So, as I mentioned before, they have between 16 and 21 years old students can be a part of that. And some of the sponsors that they have, meaning the sponsors are the places where the students would intern, are American International, AIG, Dun & Bradstreet, Ernst & Young, JP Morgan and Company, MetLife and Tiffany and Company. Now, the name of this program, if everyone wants to look it up, it's called the Joseph A. Fragone Development School for Youth. And it's named after retired Merrill Lynch Managing Director. And he was on the All-Stars board. So the All-Stars program, what it basically wants to do is bring students together, train them on proper business etiquette, train them on how to operate in the workplace. Once they're trained in like the fall, in the spring, they can possibly get an internship at one of the places that I just mentioned.
And it's a select group of people.
Right, it's a select group of people.
So it would help them with like resumes,
Interviewing
all that stuff that
skills,
nobody knows how to do.
all of these things. Because what I ultimately think is that all of these options should be out there for our youth. All of these options. Yes, college is an option. This is another option. If you want to, I heard a discussion earlier about a student not knowing what he wants to do yet. But this is an option. If you possibly intern here, maybe you can decide you want to go into finance or you want to go into business. So that's one of the options. Oh, yes, my time's up.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment?
Well, first I would like to commend Sanjata for, having the ingenuity and the thought to look at a specific program to introduce to the school district. For me, I think ideas are important. I think the ideas that Sanjata brings to the table, the ideas that community members bring to the table, are important and should be at least investigated. But introducing new programs sometimes could be a slippery slope. I'd like to look at what we have in front of us right away, and perform an analysis on program services that we as a school district provide our children, and look for the efficiencies, the effectiveness in those programs, and obviously work with folks that have innovative ideas or programs that they want to introduce. But those programs need to be vetted, understood, and not just a blanket approach to solving a problem. So.
Jeff?
Again, I echo what Mr. Bowman says, and Mrs. Sanjata, I'm thinking, that it's great to research these programs, and anything that can help us, I think, is a wonder. And I want you to come forward. And we have our next board meeting on Tuesday. You can bring that material forward to us, and we'd love to hear it and start the wheels turning if that's a possibility. Because looking for different revenue streams to come into our district is a must. Because it's one of our board goals next year is to do a financial analysis, cost by building, and seeing how we're doing and how we can cut costs as best we can. And getting those additional revenue streams is very good. And that sounds like a wonderful program, but we have a lot of wonderful things going on right here in Roselle Park. For instance, in our high school, we have 7 AP courses that are offered right now. And we have a robotics class that Mr. Seibert, who runs it, said that he has over 40 kids registered for it already, which is amazing. And our SciTech program keeps growing. It started small, and it just keeps growing. We're up to maybe 12, 15 students right now registered for it. Also, partnerships. We have university partnerships with Kane doing cancer research. We have computer science courses with Kane where the seniors and high schoolers can dual register at Kane and at NGIT for SciTech Prep as well. And then we're bringing STEM currently, it's being implemented in the middle school with hopes of reaching down into the elementary schools as well. So there's going to be a common thread of sci-tech. And the wheels are already turning. There's some wonderful things that are happening in our district that we need to know about, and that you need to know about as well. And as far as financial literacy, as he was talking about as well, in the middle school right now with the junior achievement, we're having middle school financial literacy courses with junior achievement where they learn life skills, financial literacy, how to do a checkbook, how to survive out there in the world. So we have a lot of things going on right now that are wonderful.
I will echo what Mr. Miller said. Bringing all of these ideas to the table is great. That's the role of every member of the board to look at every possible avenue that's out there, bring it to the table, and see what we can implement again without impacting the taxpayers. But like Mr. Miller said, there's so much going on in our schools now that should be lauded, should be proclaimed out to the community and beyond, and should be celebrated. There's one of the things that we're trying to do, like again that Ms. Miller said, was trying to bring the STEM program down as far down as the elementary school, focusing on how we can better prepare elementary school kids for the future that will be more technologically based, or more computer based, or more science based, so that they don't get left behind. And we're doing a lot of those things to get all of our students ready for what's going to be a very different world by the time they graduate. And the teachers that are committing themselves to spreading that knowledge are doing a wonderful job of it. The robotics class in particular piqued my daughter's interest. She's 6, and she wondered if she was going to be able to do that, and I was more than proud to be able to tell her, you know what, you will be able to do that, so stay in school.
Whatever it takes. Mrs. Roselle?
Yeah, I actually had one question, but I have 2 follow-up questions now on previous things that were discussed. The first one is, if the boilers, the $250,000 for the boilers, made a significant impact on our property taxes rise this year, was that some sort of financial thing that was borrowed and bonded over time, or was it paid out? And if so, how is that $250 going to be allocated for the next? Where is that going to go? Because our property taxes stay up. The $250,000 has been spent, I assume, unless it was borrowed. And so I'd like to know where that would be reallocated. So that would be my first question. My second question would be for Sanjata. I'd like to know if you've looked into how the All-Stars is implemented, what type of impact and manpower it would take to implement it, and what percentage of the students it would actually benefit. And my third question, which is for everybody, which is, we hear a lot about what's good about the town, and all we really hear about what's bad about the town are the taxes. What I'd like to know is, with all the wonderful things we have in the school system, what is it that we don't have that's good? What is the weakest or the poorest point of the school system that everybody that's running for the board feels must be addressed?
The first part of the question really was addressed
Sure.
to you, Chris, so I'm going to go. Do you feel that you
No, you
can
know
ask
what?
the candidates if you can
I love to
answer
share
all
the
3 of
wealth
them?
on being lead off, but I will answer the boiler question. I mean, that money was appropriated through a lease purchase program on our budget,
Okay.
and it was for $750,000, and it wasn't just solely for the boiler, but it was also for the auditorium and other things. So that's going to be paid off in a 5-year plan. Okay, alrighty, and let's see you have the officer one, and so John, do you want to take the officer?
Oh, I'll take the All-Star. The All-Star?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, so the All-Star question, the All-Star question, when I looked into it, I know everyone won't be able to use the All-Star program. I know majority of the high school students won't be able to use it. But I would think that we can, out of Roselle Park, because they're always looking for students who want to be a part of this program. I would think that out of our program, we can get, in the first year, anywhere from maybe 25 to 45 children of students, 25 to 45. to answer your question. I know that's not a great percentage, being a part of it in the first year, but I'm thinking that if we start small, then we can grow on it. Or we can even try to expand it more. Now, the other question about the most challenging thing. One of the things that I hear when I go door to door is people saying that my children wants to go to the magnet school. They get to the high school, it's not challenging enough. I hear that constant. Property taxes first, that's second. My children, they get into the system, and then once they get into the system, they want to be challenged more. So I think our students should be challenged as much as the students that go to the magnet school. I don't think personally our students should have to leave our schools and go to a magnet school. Some people may disagree with that. But I'm just putting it out there that we should come to a part where people say that, you know what, this is a challenging environment. I spoke to a lady that lived on McGee Avenue, and she was saying basically that when her children went to college, her children were behind some of the other students because it didn't meet the school. The school didn't meet her expectation and the child's expectation. So when he went to a school in Baltimore, he wasn't challenged enough. So I want our schools to challenge the smart children, to challenge all our children, to challenge the students with that wants to take AP classes. I want it to be a more challenging environment for all our students. And I think that is the main thing, and that is something that I'm looking to address if you support me and put me on the board.
I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second. If we can keep it to one question at a time so we can kind of flow through. Robert, I'll let you answer.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and take a swing at your question about, what are some of the weaknesses in our school district, kind of what they are. So I'm going to answer that by saying I really don't know. But one of the things that I think that's important, and something that we did as part of the strategic planning committee, we performed what's called a SWOT analysis, right? So we looked at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats of the school district, right? To kind of strategize and lay out a plan to turn those weaknesses into opportunities and then in turn them into successes. Through talking to some, to various community members, one in particular stands out in mind. Someone voiced to me a concern with special needs students and sending some of those students with special needs out of district for services. Like, to me, that's something that could be explored a little further. Why do we need to send certain students out of district, and what funding is tied to that, and who's kind of getting that funding, and why things like that can't be handled in-house. So I think what's important and what I would like to do if elected to the board is to open up a venue for discussion with community members and all stakeholders to maybe work through a SWOT analysis of the school district specific to concerns in each school and issues that parents, community members might have as related, and take those findings and see what opportunities exist to implement change, to improve quality, and just to improve overall performance of the school district.
Okay, thank you for the question. One of the weaknesses, that's a kind of tough term for me, but in general, I think the perception that the Roselle Park School District is not as good as the magnet schools is a big weakness for all of us, because if we're thinking that way, then that's how we're talking to other people, and it just keeps spreading. One of the things that I've been trying to do with the communications that I've been trying to implement across the board is to try to really trumpet the successes of the schools, to talk about the good teachers and the good programs and the amazing students and their accomplishments. Because there's good stuff that's going on all the time at the schools, but nobody's going to hear about that if nobody's getting up and shouting it out. The students that need to be challenged can get challenged here in our school system, and they do. the perception, even when I moved into Roselle Park, was always that you're only going to be able to go so far before things start to fall off a cliff. You know, I don't think that's the case anymore. I think we've been working very hard to improve instruction, to bring in programs, to engage students more directly, and to really get them energized about learning. And I think it shows in some of the accomplishments of some of the students. So that's a big deal for me. That one of the goals that I asked the board to consider for the next year is to really look at how our public perception is and get it to where it's accurate, so that overall impression that it isn't good enough here just disappears.
And just to go off of what Mr. Vita said too, I mean, Ms. Santos, we do, or Reynoso, forgive me, we do have some weaknesses, and to say we didn't, you know, that would be a fit. And you know, but to go off of what Mr. Vita said, you know, communication is key. We need to get out there and communicate what the wonderful things, like some of the things I just told you about, the AP courses that we have in our district. And communication is very key to getting out and listening to the public as well. And that served us well. And it's taken us a while to get there, but if you remember, I mean, from the past, I think we've made great strides, especially with communication and listening to the community as far as when we were dealing with full-day kindergarten and the media centers. And a community member had a compromise idea, and we took that in because that's a great idea. Why not? If someone has a great idea, we're not bashful, we're not big egos to deny that. Also, providing transportation for the 5th grade T&G students during the day. We answered that call as well. Switching lunch vendors, a 3-year strategic plan that Mr. Bowman volunteered for, that Mr. Garrido headed up. Also, the high school auditorium renovation. And also posting class rosters a week before school started. That never happened in Roselle Park. And you know what? That gave children a week and parents a week to digest that information. And I think that's a positive as opposed to what was done in the past. And last but not least is we reinstated middle school sports. So we need to get that out there because you know what? The magnet schools, they send flyers and leaflets in 6th grade, 7th grade to our students as well. But you know what? We need to communicate. And that's one of our goals. The second one is you know, looking at the cost containment. And this year we've hired a grant writer to look at what kind of grants, what kind of money we can bring into the school districts in revenues to help our teachers. Also, our policy check, we have a wellness check every 3 years. And in the past we gave it to our attorneys to do a wellness check, and that cost us to the tune of $6,000. Well, NJSBA, they do it for us just for our annual dues. So we're looking to improve that way as well. And there are a couple others, but I can discuss that with you later.
Mrs. Woodruff? I know you had your hand up in employee application.
Some of the questions I have been thinking about have already been asked. I do want to ask, I'm a president of Denver Avenue, and I'm a native. I was born in this town. And my children, our children, all went through the system and did fabulous. Afterward, they went to good colleges. I have no complaints. I will say that the education was available to them. They had to work for it. And I sometimes get excited when I hear people say that their kids aren't challenged or that Roselle Park doesn't have a good education system. It has a fine system if you put your energy into it, but nobody's going to spoon feed to you, and that frustrates me to hear that. But I wondered about the reasons. I've probably 15 years since I've been in this building. It's been that long since my youngest graduated. So I know there are a lot of changes. I know there are media centers now where we don't have libraries. I wondered about that when the kindergartens moved in and talking to my children because I was upset about those things. They said, Mom, that's the way it is. It's a completely different generation. We are not doing the things that you do. They do on their palm, but I'm still struggling to learn how to do the book instructions and Ian, my favorite go-to tech person, who graduated from Roselle Park, by the way. So I have no complaints. I do know that we are a changing community. I do this all the time. I grew up here. I can see it from one end to the other. I'm not afraid of that. I think we were a changing community when I came here, and my thought is that the generation that I am now, my friends, we all talk. They are not computer people. They don't know how to turn them on, and if they do, they don't know how to manage them. So
things like trying to find out about this meeting tonight, I made 3 phone calls. One to the board, one to the town, and then I went to the website because somebody said, go on Facebook. Okay, but I don't do it. So, folks, you gotta get in. There's a whole section of us that raised our kids here in town, and our children are gone. So they aren't even there to help us on it. But to find out the information and to understand what's going on, you have to educate us too, because we don't know how to get the information. You mentioned, when you said that you have live streaming, okay, I know about live streaming, I don't know how to do it, but I know it exists. So please, educate us and help us find ways. We're the PTA generation that went door to door with the flyers saying that there's going to be a Board of Ed candidates night. There was no flyers. There was nothing. It's like a dead letter office. We're being cut off because they're not doing things the way they used to do.
Everybody else is too.
Yeah, we don't have, I mean, I go to Channel 34, I honestly do, but it's so dreadful. I try to find town meetings, it's like, throw a dart, maybe you'll get it. And if there's lunch time going on somewhere, the board of ed meetings, I don't really do that.
When you make those phone calls, were they on the cell phone or landline?
I have both. Unfortunately, my landline is a push-button phone. You can't pick it up any business.
I'm sorry.
I said too much.
No, it's okay. If you have a question, I'll make sure you get the information. Drop your address off and I'll send one of the kids over.
Well, not just us.
But I know, we'll try.
Yeah.
We try. Now, I'm gonna, sorry, I've got to move it on. So you two can clarify which one wants to talk first.
Do you want to
Sorry.
Hi, Melissa Stamboli. I have 2 daughters in Robert Gordon School. And my question, very briefly for each of you, is just where do you stand on school uniforms?
Can I say something? So I put something out there on one of the groups a couple weeks, just asking a question, like a survey, asking a question. What would you like? Now, it was predicated on me going door to door and hearing what people say. Some people were saying they want more services. Some people were saying that maybe the students should wear uniforms. Some people were saying other things. So I put it out there to see what people were saying. My take on it is that this community don't want school uniforms. That's my take on it. This community.
What's your opinion on it?
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to. My thing is that this community don't want it. I put it out there. It wasn't my suggestion. I just put it out here what people were saying. Like the thing, most of what you've been hearing tonight is listening to what everyone's been saying. So I've been going door to door, and I've been in those groups, and I've asked people what they think. The community don't want that. So if the community don't want that, I represent the community. So if you don't want that, you won't get that. You won't get me to support that. I'm not going to implement something you don't want. That's counterproductive. We all need to work together. It's not me against you or you against me or my idea versus your idea. And it's just too much of that going on. You know? It's about if the community want it, let's do it. If the community don't want it, let's not do it. So that's my opinion on it.
Okay. From a personal standpoint, I don't particularly care for uniforms, and I'll explain roughly why. I grew up with Catholic school, so I had uniforms all the way through high school, actually. So, but just from a private guy standpoint, that was another expense that my parents had to shell out for uniforms that I was never going to wear again, and no one else was going to wear again. So, I don't know that it's necessary. It looks great. It presents a nice image, but the clothes are just the shell. If your kids are good, if you're raising them right, and they're respectful, they're going to shine no matter what they're wearing. So, I personally don't think they're necessary.
I don't agree with school uniforms. Partially, I went to Catholic school a little bit, up until 5th grade, and then I went to private school and all boys school. Then I had to wear a shirt and tie. What you see, I'm wearing a shirt and tie now. I do it every day. But I don't think there's any, and correct me if I'm wrong, any proof or any substantive data that says wearing a school uniform enhances a child's behavior or learning experience. And to me, my daughter would never wear a school uniform. It stifles her creativity, her individuality, right? And kids express themselves through what they wear and how they present, to others, right? So why would we want to stifle that? That's just me, personally.
Mrs. Stanley, concerning school uniforms, I've never worn school uniforms, though I did wear a tie and I'd wear a sweater when I was growing up in a school that I was at in Pennsylvania. As far as requiring that for our public, for the parents to do that, I think at this point right now that's just one more thing for them to do. I really haven't studied the efficacy of school uniforms versus non-school uniforms. But to echo what Mr. Bowman was saying, I don't know if my children would want to wear school uniforms, because I think it might stifle their creativity and individuality, right, Audrey? My first reaction is I'm not really for school uniforms, to be honest with you, but I am for appropriate dress, and I am for tightening up regulations and on conduct, especially in the high school, as far as not wearing flip-flops, not wearing scantily clad clothing, because there needs to be, we need to be focused on education, and there need to be no distractions. And I remember being in high school, and there were plenty of distractions. And but so I am for appropriate dress, absolutely. And Mrs. Costa, I believe she does a very good job here, and the same with middle school with Mrs. Carlin as well. So appropriate dress, yes. But uniforms right now, I would say no.
So I had said that I had an older son. He graduated, I think it was 7 years ago. And when I looked through the pamphlet of all the children that were graduating and going on to colleges, I think I saved it because I was a little bit in shock. I really feel like there was just a short list of kids that were going to college. And of that short list, a lot of them were not four-year programs. Has that changed? I haven't been close to the high school. I haven't really seen the changes. Do you guys know? I don't know if you have those numbers or those stats, or where the schools that they're going, because I think that shows the weakness. And when you talk about Westfield and Cranford, they're getting selected to go to colleges. And I don't, no offense, but I don't think colleges are coming to Roselle Park to select people. So to me, that's a weakness. And I think, you may want to analyze why the kids aren't applying, or, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Is there a specific question?
Is there something do you guys know what the stats are on the kids graduating and going to colleges and what colleges they're going to?
I don't, but just to answer, and this is going to be my opinion, right? So college is not for everyone, right? So a lot of students may not even desire to go to college, so we might look at, those students, bring back some, vocational training, things like that for students who desire to do that. Some students may because of cost, decide to go to a two-year community college, right? So it's cheap. I have a daughter in college now. She's a junior. I wish she went to community college, right? But she didn't. She's out of state, Connecticut, going to school, right? So it's not for everyone. So I think the expectation is good to wow, our kids are going to college. That's great, because many generations of individuals didn't go to college, right? And a lot of times, the first child is the first child to go to college in the family, right? But is that truly the expectation that that we're kind of pushing for kids to go to college? I think you have to look at it at an individual basis. Some kids are cut out to go to college. Some kids, not so much. I went to college to play football, right? That was my main priority when I coming out of high school, to play football. Next year I'll have a doctorate. Who knew, right? So I think we have to look at it at an individual level, and it's good to analyze the data and to see if we're comparing apples to apples, right? So we want to see where we stand as far as college prep next to Westfield, Cranford, so on and so forth. It's good to know. But I think it requires a deeper dig into individual level of expectations and desires of students and families.
Sure, and I'm sorry, your name, ma'am?
Ellen?
Ellen, okay. Ellen, when you talk about those figures, what year were you talking, what year were you looking at?
2008.
2008, okay. And, well, hopefully this will cheer you up a little bit, because I have some numbers for 2014. And 147 seniors that graduated in 2014. We had four-year college, the ones who went on to four-year college schools were 55%, okay? 55.1 to be exact. And the ones who went on to two-year colleges are 34%, all right? And there was no one that went to vocational or technical or business schools. So, but to put that all up in a nutshell, that was about 89% of our high school seniors of 147 that went on to either two or four-year college.
So that is an improvement then, right?
That is an improvement.
That wasn't the same numbers as 2008 or 2009. And that's when Sue came in, she was working on turning the school around.
Absolutely.
95% the year before that.
And what's that?
95% the year before that.
94, thank you, Mr. Hines.
95%.
Absolutely, so, you know.
That's telling, I mean, that proves that something's, you know.
Absolutely, and you know what? And these kids, like Mrs. Woodruff was saying, they worked harder. It wasn't handed to them, and especially the population, the community we have here, the diverse. I mean, we're not Westfield, we're not Cranford, and I'm proud of that. I mean, because you know, when these kids make it, and when they get into college, 2-year or 4-year, or wherever their path takes them, you know, it's a badge of honor. And I'm not saying the folks in Westfield and Cranford don't earn it; they earn it as well too. But you know what? I think that the students here, when they earn it, they really, really earn it, and they're working hard, and things are in place, and because of those improvements, I mean, that's what the wonderful things that like Mr. Banks and Mrs. Costa are doing here in the high school, with those partnerships with NGIT and Kane, and that's only going to get better, and I don't even think the magnet schools have that, what we offer, so we're just getting bigger and better, and hopefully we'll stay positive.
That's our reputation, we need to work on our reputation. I think we still have that.
It's all about communication.
Just touching briefly, because I know there's more questions. I'm for as many students as possible going to college. I met my wife in college in 2001. We've been together ever since. I'm for all students going to college. But the key to going to college is being prepared to go to college. So I'm for us preparing all students to go to college. That's all.
Just to quickly address that, again, as you're saying, it does tie back into that perception that we're not doing enough for these kids, or these kids are not achieving, when clearly they are. We've improved to the point where we're getting 95% moving into the college system, 84% this year and so on. The programs are there, the challenges are there for the kids that take on those challenges, and we're doing a lot of stuff with colleges and universities to get them ready to take on that next step if they so choose.
We should list the colleges that people are going to.
And you know, just to that point.
They write down where the kids are.
Yeah, well.
Can I just be asking a favor? So keep your comments.
Just real quick. For the last percentage that we reported, I did post it on Facebook, so you're clearly not reading it. Yes, no, I understand. But again, that's part of the job that I'm trying to do, is to get those numbers out there, and to get our community talking about the amazing graduation rates that we're achieving, and putting that out there beyond our community.
Hang on. Okay, just so we know. Mrs. Goodis has a question. I have one for the floor. Then we're going to go to Mrs. Reynoso, Mrs. Woodruff. Did I mention your hand earlier? Yeah. And then we'll go right there. Okay? So, Mrs. Goodis. Sorry.
Janine Goodis. I have 3 children, one in middle school, 2 in the high school. First comment, I have 2 high schoolers, one here in 11th grade. He is not my greatest student, but he has done well here, and they have treated him extremely well here. I have one in Magnet. It is a really sore subject in my head, the way we bash the magnet schools. They are not for everyone. I will tell you, my oldest would have suffered. They are for some, and the one that goes there of mine belongs there. He is an oddball, he belongs in a different place. But having said that, the education here can be just as quality. It depends on the child, how they want it. That's all it depends on. If they want it, they'll go for it. There's many children here doing just as well. my question is, I think this board's done a great job at reaching out and connecting with the community. Jeff, kudos to you for Facebook page. I think that's a really great idea to kind of get people involved. How can we get more people involved? This is to all of you. PTAs, PTOs, we're struggling. Parents aren't coming out. It's an attitude of, oh, they got it, they'll handle it. How do we get parents more involved to know what's going on, to know how the kids are doing, how other kids, when they're graduating, how they're doing? And how can you do that? Help us with that.
The essence of the question is how to communicate better with parents and how to get parents more involved. I'm going to start with you, Jeff.
I think the old-fashioned going door to door. This town is 1.2 square miles. I've done it. I've been on the streets. I've been knocking on doors. It can be done. I think we can't rely too much on Facebook. Because, yes, I'm in Facebook and I post stuff there, but yes, I also go and speak to people. I see a few people that I've seen them in their homes. The gentleman back here, I went to him. He lived not too far from me. I went to him and we were talking. We had a great conversation about the community and about education. I had a great the Woodruff invited me into their homes and they told me about the community. So I think we can't just, Facebook is great. Getting the message out on Facebook is great. But why can't we just do the old-fashioned, go door to door like Mrs. Woodruff said?
We have telephones.
We have telephones. We have telephones. We have the community. I think we need to do more of that. I think we need to go door to door knocking, letting people know, besides the Facebook, what's going on in the community.
So Facebook is just one of the avenues for us to get communication out there. The meetings are the big one. We try to encourage more and more people to come to the meetings. The PTAs and the PTOs are doing the same thing. They want to get people there and get involved. How do we do it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we need to say to the community to get them to understand that your input is valued, because your input decides how things get done in all of these organizations. If you come to the meeting and you give us an idea that will help us save money, that saves your money. If you go to the PTAs and the PTO meetings and you come up with a fundraiser that everyone will latch onto, that's funds that will go to your kids' schools. The thing that maybe isn't as apparent to everybody all the time is that we are really all in this together. What you contribute is what drives us forward. What we get from you guys, the feedback that we get from the community is what is the fuel that lets us run. So we need as much of that fuel as possible. We need as much of that feedback as possible. We need your help so that we can help our students.
Well, basically there's different types of people, right? There's those folks like us intrinsically want to be involved, want to, have our finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community and what's going on with our children. And then there's the other folks who maybe aren't as interested. To me, it's a level of complacency, maybe. Like you said, folks, someone else has it. Awareness is definitely key. Saturating, all modalities of communication, whether it's social media, whether it's print advertising, telephone, call down to knocking door to door. You can use all modalities to kind of perform outreach, right? But what it really kind of boils down to is, like I think Jeff kind of alluded to it, the incentive. What's in it for me? What's in it for me to be involved in my child's, in the PTA or with my child with Girl Scouts or what have you. What's in it for me? So I think we have to look at ways to provide incentives that are not monetary, right? So to encourage, because that's all we really can do. We can encourage, provide information, maybe provide ways to make access to events and things, so on and so forth, more easily accessible. But it's a culture, right? It's a culture. I work in emergency management, right? So in emergency management, if you think back in the Cold War, Soviet Union, we were worried about attacks from the Russians, public messaging, everyone had bomb shelters, everyone dropped and covered. Now we have a hurricane, we say get off the beach, folks are hanging out on the beach, right? So it's that culture. And so we need to look at ways to overcome that culture and provide information to everyone. And what they choose to do with it, what they choose to do, unfortunately.
About my second or third year as a board member, it was one of probably my saddest moments I experienced. And that was a PTA, a woman who was nominated, who was nominated to be a vice president of the PTA. I believe it was in the middle school, and she said she did not want to do it. And when she was asked why, she said, because my accent is too heavy. Okay, she was a Latino woman, and that made me very, very sad because that woman had great potential. She was wonderful, and that made me sad, and that made me say, look, as a board member, as a board president, I said, we need to build community. And building community is going to empower people who might have been maybe a little timid, maybe a little bit of coming forward, empowering them to come forward and to give of their rich, diverse talent to our district, to our children, to their children. And that was a very sad point. And to that, I want to build community. Ms. Goodis, to answer your question, because I'm all about community. Whether it's coaching rec soccer, coaching a baseball I used to do, I'm all about it. But as a board member, and we operate as a board, we make decisions, and our triumphs, we all have them together. And I feel volunteerism is key. How do we get the volunteerism? Well, we can have different events in the school. Because if you get the kids involved, their parents are trailing right behind. And if their parents are trailing right behind, you have a captive audience. And I think that's very, very important. Case in point, I'm going to take my Board of Ed hat off, and I'm going to take my parent hat down for a second. At the PTA at Sherman last year, we had I was asked to do a family science night because I am an elementary school teacher, and science is one of my favorite things to do. And we had that, and it was wonderful because I got 17 or 18 high school kids to come down and volunteer their time, not only for orientation the week before, but to come and to have all my little exhibits. And Mr. Ron, you were there, and they had a great time. And that's building community because they came down, and then these little children, these elementary school kids say, hey, when I'm in high school, I'm going to come down and help out Mr. Miller and help out Family Science Night as well. So building community is very, very important, and that's going to draw and empower people out to help us.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask one because it came to me. It says, to the new candidates, what would you have done to work on the 2014-2015 budget to be fiscally responsible? I'm going to switch it up. I'm sorry. I'll let Robert go first.
Well, I don't know. So, I just think with any budget, all right, you have, I'm just giving some thought, because I'm not too familiar with the 2014 to that budget.
That's a tough question.
Yeah, it is a tough question, but, to be fiscally responsible is being, being able to take a look at what's going in, what's coming in, what's going out. And, if what's coming in is less than what's going out, then you need to make some changes, right? So you need to kind of give a critical look at, programs, services, particularly like with the income tax issue, right? So, what was it, 53% of our income tax is related to the schools? Well, one of the problems to me that I see moving into this community is that there's really no ratables other than the taxpayers, right? So we're the businesses, within our community that can kind of offset some of those costs. And why is it that Cranford, Westfield, and other communities have thriving businesses, right? And they have higher taxes too, right? But just looking at that, and evaluating, some of the things that could be done to kind of offset the costs, I think, is worth looking at. But to answer that question specifically about the budget, I'm sorry, unfortunately, I can't answer it 100% other than just from experience of managing budgets at work and understanding how, if you're putting that, if you're not what you're taking in, then if I'm at, my salary is less than what I'm putting out, there's a problem. I need to do something. So that's it.
I think Mr. Hokinson could answer that question, being fiscally responsible. But I think overall, what we have to do is ensure that funding goes into the program. Now, what we don't want as much as possible, if we're saying we're going to have an after-school program, We don't want most of that money for the after-school program going straight towards salaries. We want that money to go into the program as well. One of the things that I heard from someone is that there was a program here in the high school. I think it was a TV video program. I read it somewhere. TV video program, and it was going to get cut. Now, from what I read is that it was going to be cut, and the students got into an uproar. Why is it going to be cut? Until the facts came out that a lot of the funding that was going into the after-school program, that program itself for the TV video, was going towards salary. If we're going to have a program, and if we say we're going to be fiscally responsible, the money has to go within the program. We can't slate the money to go into more salaries. As I stated earlier, 80% of the budget, salaries, medical, dental. We have to make sure that the money is spent, goes to the program, and which in turn will go to the children and not the teachers who will then teach that program. So that's what I meant. On my flyer, I don't know if you've seen it, yes or no, I mentioned fiscally responsible. And that's one of the things that I want to see that is fiscally responsible. More money going towards the program, if a program is in place, and not as much money going into salaries themselves. So that's what I was thinking when I wrote that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. John?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is to address the college questions that people were asking about. The last time that I looked at the number of students that were taking the PSAT, it was only 23% of the district. And if you're wondering why colleges might sort of recruit, although they don't really, but send letters to more kids in Westfield and Cranford, they have an extremely high percentage of kids that take the PSAT, and there's a lot of PSAT prep. I don't believe in teaching for the test. However, the PSAT is what gives you the National Merit Scholarship competition. Also, a lot of schools, even if you don't make commended or you don't make semifinalists, from the scores and from the answers on the sheets, will send information to the students. This is a town where the students need scholarships, and one place is that the schools that have scholarships look for it is from the PSATs. Plus, it's great practice for the SATs. So my question is, why do we have such a small percentage of the district taking PSATs?
Okay.
It's a great question. It's a question that we took on very recently and to try and address because you're right, the percentage is low. So one of the goals that we set down was to investigate that and get those numbers up because it's important for students, for all of that, for college prep. Why is it? I'm not sure. I don't know what the issues are, but that's why we took it on board as one of our board goals to find out and to increase that number so that we can get more students prepared for college should they choose.
And just to may I speak, why is it so low? I don't have an answer for that, but we are investigating it. We do have prep PSAT classes in the high school, and to hopefully encourage, because we want them, we want them to take them and then they be recognized. But that is one thing we're working on, and what Mr. Vita was referring to was towards that falls under the umbrella of our student achievement goal, and in high school preparing them for the PSATs to take them. But hopefully we can get that number up.
Chris, they took it today. They took it today. Everybody, all the 11th graders from
Great.
academic level, which is not the higher levels, up, took it today. It was mandatory. They took it. They took it today.
So that was going to actually be my question, is the PSAT mandatory? Right? All students are required to take the PSAT?
This year, they did.
Since we addressed it, I shouldn't be talking.
Well, and I kind of go back. I kind of go back to my earlier point about college. College is not for everyone, and there's a group of students that we can't overlook right? Those students that maybe aren't students that want to have the desire to, their family, to go to college. So why are they overlooked? My daughter's in college, and I remember having to pay for the PSAT. It wasn't free, so she wanted to go to college, so I shelled out the $200 that it took for her to, and everyone doesn't have it, right? And then when you look at taking it twice to do better, or then taking the SAT, after taking 2 PSATs just so you can get the highest score, it costs, and a lot of folks, can't afford
You
that.
don't take multiple PSATs.
No,
unless
my
it's
daughter
different
took it
grades.
twice.
No, that's the SAT.
No, I think she took the PSAT.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
But-
let them answer the question.
Yeah, but I think we,
You only take it once a year, the PSAT.
college is good, right? But it's not the standard of excellence for everyone, right? So I think it's important that those students that have the desire are pushed and encouraged to take the PSAT, absolutely. But I just don't want to neglect or not pay any attention to those individuals that maybe have a different route, So it's exactly.
Okay. Would you like to address it?
Yes. Like I mentioned, I think that anything we can do in order to get kids into college is a good thing. As we go on the future, more jobs. If you go now, if you go on Sunday and get in Star Ledger Classified, most of the jobs there are going to say bachelors, some associates, some even masters. How we have to prepare our kids to meet those jobs. Isn't that what we want to do? We want to prepare our kids to get associates, bachelors, masters, because at the end, they're going to be looking for a job, and they are going to have to meet the requirements. If it's in the paper saying associates, bachelors, and masters, and you don't have those things, you are already not qualified to get those jobs. So what is going to happen then? So it's good, yes, in past years in this country, there was loads of manufacturing. And then people with high school GED, they maybe can go down to Linden and work in Ford. That's not there anymore. Service-oriented economy where associates, bachelors, and masters meet those jobs, that's where we are. And that's the reality of it. So we have to prepare as much children as possible to go to college and to graduate. Because again, if you go to the Star Ledger on Sunday, just look at the classifieds, go through all those jobs that's there, and look at the requirements. And college is one of the #1 things employers are looking for.
We also need machinists. We also need electricians. We need masons. We need those services as well. But and those are those individuals that desire those services, desire the education, right?
My name is Lori Quiniano. I have children. I have a 3rd, a 5th, and an 8th grader. I just wanted to ask, this is an educational question. Can you explain what you believe heterogeneous grouping is, and whether you believe it is beneficial to all students, and why heterogeneous grouping exists in all K-5 subjects except math? So do you believe in that type of grouping, right, and whether you believe it's beneficial? Heterogeneous.
Heterogeneous?
Heterogeneous.
Maybe she could explain.
The group is the same, right? So
Yeah.
But heterogeneous is different.
No.
Yeah.
Mr. Miller knows.
homogeneous.
Right. Mr. Miller knows.
He's a teacher.
I had to speak.
Sorry, Chris.
Well, heterogeneous. Just to be clear, heterogeneous is teaching, like say Roger, Jeff, and Sujata and I got together and we worked, and Roger was a high performer, and Jeff was medium high, and so was Sujata, and I was a low achiever. We'd be mixed together for a project. And basically the theory behind that is, okay, great, well, I'm going to learn some of Roderick's skills and Jeff's skills and Sanjata's skills, as we're doing this research project together. And in fact, today we're doing a content study in my classroom where there is heterogeneous grouping for that example, because we want the lower performer children, the ones who are struggling, to see, what a higher skill set is, and hopefully they can mimic that and then absorb some of that as it goes by. But on that same thing, on that same aspect, in our math classes, and it happens to be the same curriculum that we use here in Vision Math, we have homogeneous groupings, which means, and we do that through a pretest system. So, all like the children who scored like 80 to 100, they're in the higher level, and then there's a medium level, and there's a level that's challenging. And I have a challenging level, and it's 13 children. The others are 24 and 25. I have 13 children. But I've never worked so hard in my life with these 13 children. And don't get me wrong, I love it. It's the first time I had it, because last year I was doing the higher skills. But, that was, there are advantages to both. I mean, in heterogeneous, there's modeling, but in homogeneous, then you can, like the accelerated group can go faster. Whereas a remedial group, we can sit back and review and do the skills and take our time. And really, like I was doing scales today with my children because we're trying to do equations. One side equals another, and we're working on that. So they really liked the visual. That really, really helped them, and they did great. And I love it. I'm tired. I'm going to pass out after this class, but I love it. But there's balances to both. I have to research why we have heterogeneous in the other subjects, and I'll get back to Mrs. Tribbiano on that as well.
I can't answer that question. So, but it's definitely interesting, and it's actually the first time that I heard about that type of delivery of education. It's something that I will look at and research. And I think it's important to understand that if you don't know something, you say you don't know something, right? And I'll go ahead and I'll research it, and I'll maybe at some other point in time have an answer.
All right, I'm going to say right now, I have no idea what you were talking about. But as a board member, it isn't necessarily my job to know what heterogeneous grouping is. As a board member, I'm trusting my superintendent to hire the best teachers, to implement the best programs, and they're going to go through and find out what heterogeneous grouping is and whether it works, because they'll have undergone the professional development to see the efficacy of those programs. Whether that works, or whether another program works, or whether co-teaching works, and all of that. All of that happens at the teacher, administration, superintendent level. And as a board member that helped put those people in place, I'm trusting that their professional development is to the point where they know what they're talking about, and the data is good, and they're doing the job that they need to do to get that information to the students. And then I'm going to trust that my superintendent is not blowing smoke my way and saying that, oh, it all works, it's all great. Because, again, we're all in this together, so it isn't up to me to know how heterogeneous, I can't say it. Different people learning works. But I'm trusting that the system that I've helped put in place is doing the job for our students.
Heterogeneous. Now, this is, you have a group of class, then you pick the high, correct me if I'm wrong, you pick the high students, right? The middle students and the low students, you put them together, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so understanding that concept, it can be good for the low students to learn from the high students. However, the high students may say, I don't want to help low students, and the middle students could be caught in between these two. So we have a situation, if it's just a classroom, I think you have to ultimately leave that up to the teacher. The teacher, at some point, obviously from the data, she's or he's going to know who's high, who's middle, who's low. And if you have a high person, can that high person teach the others? And is that high person able to teach the others? Will the low person listen to the high person? So I would say ultimately, that comes down more to the teacher themselves, and the teacher has to deal with how to properly have a group that everyone is going to learn, the high group, the middle group, and the low group. So if the teacher is well prepared, and as a board member, if you support me and I get on the board, absolutely I get the best teachers in the system. That's going to be my job, to get the best teachers. Absolutely, I'm going to make sure that the teachers get the best training. That's going to be my job. Absolutely, I am going to try to make sure it's a learning environment where the low ones can learn from the high ones. And the high ones will be willing to teach the low ones. So as a board member, I want to ensure that both the best teachers are part of our system, the best training is a part of our system, and also those teachers with the best training can implement the heterogeneous groupings well.
Okay. The one in the back, I'm sorry.
Brian Downey, I have 2 kids in Sherman, and this by no means is a question of whether you are for or against core mathematics. But I have read many studies of children that have been suffering lower grades because of it. Now, has the school board discussed what's going to happen? Because children get discouraged. And if you are an A+ student in math, and all of a sudden you go into core mathematics and you are now a C- student, what is being done in the school system to ensure that we are going to provide some kind of help for this discouragement that our children are having? I have a child in kindergarten, he's going to go through core math, he'll be golden, I'm not worried about that. But my older one is going to have issues, and I am worried about her becoming discouraged. And has it been discussed at the school board, and those of you that are running for the first time, do you guys have thoughts on what can be done outside of the classroom? Because one of the issues that I've seen is, and this is by no means to bury teachers, some of the teachers don't agree with it either and really don't care how the kids get the answer. So it's a mixed message on my part being communicated from the school. And I just want to make sure that the children aren't those kids that are suffering somehow can get out of that rut. And I just would like to hear from all you guys what you guys think about that.
Is this the Common Core you're referring to?
Yeah, that's the one.
The Common Core.
I'm going to let Mr. read it because it was addressed to the board members.
Okay. So the Common Core is a polarizing issue. There are supporters and detractors. The theory behind the Common Core is to get everybody on the same level and give them all the right instructions, so that no matter where you go, you're going to be learning the same stuff. The teachers that we have in place that are instructing to the core are well equipped now to make sure that everybody is getting the support that they need. Is it happening? I don't know. I'm not sure. But that's what they're going to try to do for everyone. There shouldn't be, if everybody's doing their jobs, there shouldn't be any point where there's such a drop-off that it should be discouraging. All the teachers are there to help anybody that needs it as much as they need it. It is a different way to look at a lot of the mathematics. I get lost.
I can't
doing homework.
Math, so I mean that's right.
And but I'm also not trained to teach it, so I should get lost. But the teachers that are there are doing, and I know that we've gone through a lot of development with them to make sure that they were all well equipped to make sure all the information gets to where it needs to go. So I know that there shouldn't be any case where they get so left by the wayside that that they go from an A to a C. But as it goes, we'll keep a tight eye on that to make sure.
Is there? And I'm sorry. I mean, because you're on the board. Is there a plan to intervene, so to speak, with these children that do have this happen? I mean, because that's my biggest concern. Not that core is good, core is bad. I could care less. It's math, and they're being told to teach this way. My concern is the discouragement that children are having from grade suffering, from what they did do to what they're doing now, and what is this board and the future board going to do to make sure that these children stay engaged in school?
Just give me 1 second.
Yep.
Okay, because I'm going to just switch it. I know what. We need to send it over to Chris, and I'll give you.
sorry, Mr. Downey, what grade is your daughter in?
She's in fourth.
I'm sorry?
Fourth grade.
Fourth grade, okay. Okay, so she's doing the Envision Math program. And first of all, you know, I'm sorry that, you know, you're going through this challenge, and it really does, it stinks to struggle. But we're here to lift her up and to lift other children up as well. And first and foremost, to address her situation, and I'm sure you've done this already, but I would address it first of all with the teacher. And if you're not satisfied, then talk to the principal as well, because there should be supports in place, you know, for her. And in particular, and I'll talk to you later about it after the meeting, with Envision Math, there is a online component where, I mean, if she takes a test and doesn't do well in certain areas, there'll be some reinforcement for her to do. So that's something that you can work with her immediately on to help her. To address, I mean, I understand what you're saying, because the children that I teach in math, I was teaching them subtracting 3-digit numbers the other day, and they weren't getting this place value concept that the book was saying. And they're just looking at me like I'm speaking, you know, a foreign language to them. So, you know, I put that aside, and I went another route, and I went to another algorithm, and they liked it, they took it and ran with it, because, you know what, they understood it. And you know, time is of the essence. And, you know, you have to make that calls. And hopefully our teachers do that as well. I mean, and especially for your daughters and other children who are struggling in mathematics and other subjects as well. They make that call and they say, okay, well, this isn't working. Throw it out the window, let's do something else. I'm not talking about throwing out the core content standards, because I see there's validity in that. And a lot of it's based off the New Jersey core content standards that have been around for years. And to have a common thread of if Roderick is learning something,
You lost me an algorithm.
I mean, to learn the same, to have the same standards, I think it's beneficial. But to address that, and because, you know, I talk to we need to address that population that's not way low, but that's struggling a little bit and losing health confidence. I'll talk to you later about that.
Well, it sounds a little bit like ITA in the New York, but anyway, they tried years ago. Clarification, one is regarding the money center for the TV programs and the video programs. That money was supposed to come by means through the town for those programs. It wasn't something that was really, but that got diverted by the town council. But anyway, in reference to the quality of the education, I think to some extent they have a T&G program in the schools, and I'm not so sure that the benefits of that program really devolve down to the other classes throughout the school system. If the T&G program is working for the select group of kids, why don't some of those benefits trickle down or come down to the other classmates in those grade levels? It just seems like it kind of stops with the T&G kids, and there's no trade-off on those kids, the kids who are not part of that program, benefiting from that kind of exposure that the T&G kids are getting.
What specifically was your question? Sorry. Is it?
Well, to me, it goes towards quality of education being levied, presented in a high school now. I don't think it's terrible by a long shot, but I think it's something that should be looked into, and then maybe something the curriculum coordinators could get involved in. Was there how much of what the T&G programs are doing now does in fact benefit the other classes that are not part of that? Some of the teaching techniques and some learning programs, could they be used with a lower, lesser fortunate students who are not part of the T&G program?
I'm just going to interrupt because I'm trying to understand the question, just so that we're straight. T&G is part of the special education program. Talented, gifted, it is gifted, talented, gifted. Okay, so it's based on testing. So what I'm trying to understand is what exactly is your question? With that, or is that just a general statement?
No, I think that, to me, it impacts to some extent the level of education based on public comments that we've heard tonight and other times as well, is when the kids are not being challenged.
I need a specific question for them to answer.
You know, I think why hasn't the T&G concept, those higher level figures, why hasn't that trickled down to kids who didn't make that cut? and how can it be better utilized? Is that what you're saying, Mr. Woodruff? And may I start, please? Oh, you started early on. Well, I agree with that. I mean, in my school, we have a gifted program too, and it's like, why can't everyone be exposed to that? And I think that that's very, very important to do that, to raise the bar for everyone. You raise the bar, they're going to get there. If not, they're going to make a little bit of progress, but you're showing that you believe in them, and I think that's very, very important. Why can't they do it, okay? And I think that's very, very important. And, one thing we are doing in the elementary schools right now is there is a special math person that comes by and gives enrichment math once a week in the elementary classrooms to the children, which is great. And my son, he misses it because he has SAT score or something like that, and he's really upset about that. But then again, I get those papers home so I can work with him on it as well. So he enjoys that. So we are starting to trickle that down a little bit as far as providing more enrichment, because we need to enrich our children. I mean, it just shouldn't be just for a select few. Absolutely not. It should be shared, and I believe and we can do that in many ways. And one of the coaches was talking to me, who's an educator at another school district, and he was saying, "What about those kids in the middle?" And it's like, what happens to those kids in the middle? They're not high performers, but they're not low performers. They're right in the middle, and sometimes they need to be addressed. And sometimes because they're doing their work, we have to, as educators, we're working on other children who have more remedial needs.
But they need to be challenged as well.
They need to be challenged as well. And that's something in the future that as a board, through curriculum, that we need to look at and address. I mean, yes, we're addressing the high, we're addressing the remedial, but now we need to address and enrich the middle as well. And that's something we should look at in the future as well.
Thank you for your question. I mean, I think it's a valid concern. I'm going to echo a lot of the points that Mr. Miller made. And it's those types of questions that, if I'm elected to the board, that I will be open to listening to, hearing, because all programs, no matter how long they've been running, should be evaluated, right? So programs should be kind of like living, breathing types of situations, right? So when you look at, and you see an opportunity to enhance a program, then you should take that opportunity. So I thank you for your question, and that's really my take on, of your concern.
To steal a piece from each of the gentlemen that spoke before me, the programs that are going on now are constantly evolving. We're evaluating if something works. If something doesn't work, then we cut it and we move in a different direction. We are doing a lot of things that will bring some of those higher performing metrics down to other grades. For example, we're trying to move STEM from the high schools into the middle school, and then trying to extend that into the elementary school, because there's no telling where we're going to find that one student that wants to push beyond what they're expected or what they should be doing. So those kinds of things are constantly happening. We're constantly looking at how things are affecting students, and if they're positive, then we're going to expand, and if they're negative, then we're going to contract them. So it isn't a case where we put a program in place and then let it run. We're constantly looking at it and seeing if it works, and if we can expand that and help more children.
Mr. Woodruff, you said we want to listen to the community. I'm going to donate my 2 minutes to you. What do you think that we should do about that issue?
Well, I don't know specifically to what extent the curriculum coordinators get involved with this kind of an issue, and I would think there are some beneficial effects from utilizing some of the advantages of the TG program for the quote average students, because not all the students who are average are going to be there. Some of those are going to go on to college. Some may go into a vocational school. Some may become the plumbers, electricians, and those graphic artists, and whatever. May become landscapers or surveyors, that kind of thing. We need those people as well. So I think there are definite advantages to that. I think one of our drawbacks has an overall entity. This CEG program has been around for a long time. Some of our kids went through it, some of them didn't, but I think it's something that we should be looking at on a regular basis. I think we need somebody to come in and take a critical look at what we can do about enhancing the average students so that we challenge them. Not all the kids are going to be average. Some of them may be above average, but they're really not, quote, the select group. There's a heck of a lot of people that applies to, and also a number of people in this room that probably fit the same category.
I did.
Yeah, no, I've got one over there and then one back there. Okay, so Saul, yeah, question.
My question is for all the candidates, but it's based on a statement that I heard Mr. Sekou state about that he would do the will of the people. And I guess the general question, and I'll follow up with a little explanation, is what do you feel the responsibility of a board member is? Is it to be a steward, to do the will of the people, or to be a visionary? And I mean visionary in that you have your own vision, you have your own kind of objective. And the examples I'll use is if you ask the majority of the people, would they like prayer in school? The majority of the people would say they would like prayer in school. And you said you would do the will of the people, would you do that? And if you asked people, would they obligate people to stand and salute the flag, you would get almost 100% of the people who said that. And that's the will of the people. Is that something that you would do? And other examples, like full-day kindergarten. There was a huge divide between full-day kindergarten and not full-day kindergarten. So if 51% of the people that you spoke to said they don't want full-day kindergarten, would that not happen? And then in line with that, most of the people who actually speak don't come to say you guys do a good job. They come to complain, they have concern, they have a worry, and it's genuine. But how would you gauge, and this is for all of you, if you're going to be someone who's a steward, how will you measure the will of the people? Will it be the people who come? Will you go out door to door? So those are the components of the question. That's what I asked.
Okay. I believe ultimately, since we will be elected, we represent the people. So again, there was an issue with the uniform. The people don't want it, we don't give it to them. If the people, whether it's a select group who's more active, more into going to board meetings, and they're pushing for this thing, we have to give them what they say they want, if we are able to. If we are able to provide a service and the people want it, give it to them. If we are able to do these things without us touching on any type of regulation that we're not supposed to do these things. The three things that I mentioned, that I put out there, is basically because people are saying they want more services and they don't want to pay for it. So I went out, and basically because to pay for it, you have to raise their property taxes. And nobody, absolutely nobody, well, maybe one person I spoke to, going door to door, said that, okay, it's just something we have to pay for. Most people don't want that at all. So what I did is went out and I looked for programs. The Department of Agriculture have a program that basically pays school districts to feed their children in the summertime. The town put up the money, the Department of Agriculture reimbursed the town 100%. I worked there, I know how the program works. That's one. The second thing was the STEM program. I know, I've been saying this for the longest of time, the STEM program needs to trickle down to the kindergarten level. I've been saying that as long as I've been out there, either in the groups or going to the door. The third thing that I mentioned is the All-Stars program. So these are, I have services so far that I went out, researched, looked up, so that I can bring to this district without you having to pay more as a property taxpayer. That's what I've done. So I hope that answers it.
It didn't.
Okay, to be, it did.
Well, no, I mean,
Yeah.
As a board member, we have one responsibility, the students of the district. That is our main concern. We need to give the students of the district every opportunity that they can have to learn better, to be well-rounded, to have more classes, projects, activities, so that they can do the things that they need to do to get where they need to go as a student of the district. My role on the board is to put the pieces in place that will allow that to happen for the students. Going out and finding the right superintendent for the job, who is going to then go out and find the right teachers for the job, who will then go and teach the right things to your kids so that they are getting the most out of their time here in the district. The will of the people is all well and good as long as everybody in the community remembers that we're all doing it for the students in the district. It's not your personal agendas, it's not my personal agenda, it's us coming together and figuring out what we need to do for that student in 4th grade, or that student in the middle school, or that student in the high school, and making sure that we as a community are there financially, support-wise, however it needs to be, that we have their back and that the students know that.
I agree 100% with Jeff, you know, and I think when you're looking at being a visionary versus, you know, addressing the will of the people, it really is a balancing act, right? So, I mean, you want to be innovative, you want to be creative, you want to create, you know, an environment that inspires our children, that supports education, that creates a higher standard, superior educational experience for each and every student. When you talk about the will of the people, you guys kind of have to look at a few things. You have to look at feasibility, you have to look at legality, appropriateness, realism, and if it's even necessary or needed, right? So, you know, just taking those things into consideration. And as Jeff said, you know, if that idea is not in the best interest of our students, and it's not in the best interest of creating an environment conducive to learning and excelling and achieving and being successful, then we need to just not move forward with something that's not going to address all those points. And being a visionary, you need to be a visionary without having an agenda, right? So I don't think, you know, me as a board member, I don't have an agenda. My only agenda is to support my children, to support your children, to make sure that this school district is superior, that all the students in the school district have the opportunities that, you know, that they deserve, right? Whether it's, you know, going to college, whether it's, you know, finding a trade, whether it's, you know, being involved in the talented and gifted program. That opportunity is there. Let's enhance those opportunities, and let's offer those opportunities to each and every one of the 2,000 plus students in this school district.
Am I a steward of the people? Am I someone who listens to the people? And of course, I'm someone who listens to the people. The board is someone who listens to the people. And we've listened to them, and we've compromised, and we've actually accepted their ideas, as some of those bullet points I said earlier in my speech. But there are times when, you know, we need to draw and sit back and say, we know this is very popular, or we know this is going to be very, not popular at all, unpopular, but we have to make this decision. Case in point, full-day kindergarten. And I remember that meeting to this day, that we were sitting there at the middle school, and people came up and they were passionate about it. They love library. I love library too. I didn't want to, you know, mess with the library, but I saw a bigger need. And that bigger need was the NJAS scores, and that bigger need was our ESL population, which is growing. And I look at, and what does that mean? I'm not a big test proponent, but in our New Jersey AS test, we have the average district-wide from grades 3 to 5 is 33% partially proficient. That's alarming to me. And that's the average of the 3 elementary schools, you know, give or take a few points. And with that, I said, we have to change this. And with the leadership of Mr. Garrido, he, you know, adding 5 full-day kindergartners, adding 500 hours of extra instruction for our kindergartners, and hopefully in the hopes of in grade 3, when they take whatever test is out there, they will be better and they will improve, and they will be successful. And I remember another time too, when I first was board president, there was a calendar issue going on with one group, and and they wanted to meet in private, but it was just, I felt it was a public issue that the public needed to hear. Well, that didn't sit well, plus a few other factors, and it was just a very, very, uncomfortable situation for me and for the board to be in. But you know what? Right is right, and sometimes you have to stand up and say, listen, that's for the open, that's for Jake to hear, that's for Saul to hear, that's for everybody to hear. And you know what? I might take a couple hits for it, but you know what? It's for student achievement, and it's for openness, and I stand by that.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to take 2 more questions, then we're going to give the candidates an opportunity to wind up with their final statements. After the meeting, we're going to ask if you'd like to stay. You're welcome to stay and talk to the candidates if they're open to it, and then have some coffee and water and dessert. So, Stephanie?
Hi. I currently have 3 students. I have 4 kids, one already graduated the high school. I heard somebody mention teaching for testing, and I've noticed that especially in the middle school, all my children who went through there had 2 classes, 2 English classes, 2 math classes. One was regular curriculum, the other one was to prepare for the test. And it always seemed to me, and excuse my ignorance because I don't have a background in education, it always seemed to me that that's a symptom of a suffering curriculum. If they can't hack the test with the main class, and now their recess or their lunch is cut short because now we're fitting in these 2 extra classes, is that a problem? And is that something that, a sort of red flag that you guys would look at and proactively attack? Or would you need somebody to bring that up to you? Has anybody else noticed that?
I'm going to start with Mr. Vita.
I can't say that I've noticed it, honestly, but there's the whole issue with testing is a touchy subject anyway. With the park, the Common Core coming in, there's a whole new way to teach and a whole new way to learn, and we're all trying to figure that out. As far as splitting up the classes and teaching to testing, I don't know if there's a right or wrong there in terms of getting the students ready. Testing, unfortunately, affects funding and all of that, so that's that necessary evil, I guess, if you're going to call it, that we have to take into account. If there is something suffering, though, in the regular classes, that's something that we're constantly evaluating. Well, hopefully we're putting the right teachers in place, and they're giving your kids the instruction that they need. But that evaluation happens every day. We have people in the classrooms making sure that the teachers are doing what they need to do, and they're reaching the kids that they need to reach. So that part of it, I have every confidence that we're evaluating properly every time. As for testing, I think that's a little bit beyond me.
Yeah, I'm going to go Mr. Cohen.
Okay, so I think it's important to know and understand how to take a test, right? But being able to pass a test kind of goes back to your entire learning experience, and I think it's important that every child has a comprehensive and robust learning experience that will translate into being able to successfully take a test. I don't necessarily agree that segments of the huge segments of a day should be focused on or a week on how to take a test, right? So most tests are multiple choice, process of elimination. It's really not that complicated if you kind of get down to the bare bones of it, right? If you can articulate that to students and try to get them to understand that and give them a skill set on test taking. But I think education is comprehensive, right? It's not linear, right? It's more cyclical, right? So the more information, the more experiences that you have, the better you're going to be in general at anything you do, taking tests, speaking to people, just life in general, right? Because of that experience. I used to be a teacher. I taught in Baltimore City, Maryland, Charlton School District. I was a gym teacher, health and fitness teacher. We were required as a health and fitness teacher to spend days teaching. What do I know about standardized tests, right? As a gym teacher, I've taken standardized tests. I passed them, maybe by luck. But I was made as a teacher to spend days in preparation of a test teaching students how to take a test. And I don't necessarily agree that that's even effective, right? So what do you get out of it? You know how to take a test. But do you have the content, do you have the background, do you have the experience in the knowledge base that is really more valuable than knowing how to take a test? Fine. Basic fundamentals of how to take a test, yes, but education is robust.
And to address the extra blocks of time that for test taking, I mean, Stephanie, I do agree with you. I mean, there are other ways to teach, like Mr. Bowman said, the skill set, okay, process of elimination, and because, you know, it's how we go about it, and that's something, you know, that we should look at, because, you know, as a teacher, I don't hammer my kids with test taking, because by the time the test comes, they're so exhausted, and it's just, you know, it's just brutal for them, and why would they want to do well on the test? But, you know, it's more of getting them emotionally, you know, ready and involved and psyched up and motivating them in certain ways. But, yeah, I think, you know, I mean, it's how we go about it. It's something we need to look at, because if I have to take standardized tests after standardized tests, or if I'm in front of a computer just constantly doing some program, you know, that's not dynamic, that's not teaching skill sets, and we need to look at that, because, you know, there's so many things out there with technology that Mr. Vita and myself and others have looked at as well, that we're excited about doing and discussing. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, it is, you know, we need to find a better way to build that mousetrap, to, you know, have them make sure that they're comfortable, they're confident in performing well on the tests. But, you know, we're not draining them and just pounding the rock all day, just doing if it's futile. So.
So your question, Stephanie, is that the 2 blocks are focused on just on testing?
2 of them are. They have 2 classes, if you're not familiar with it. My daughter, now my son did last year. One English class is just his regular English class, or regular English class. The other one is just for the test, just prepares her for the test.
What grade?
She's in 8th.
8th grade, okay.
And the same thing with math, and it's been that way for a few years for both of my children. And so it concerns me, because there's less electives because of it, there's less lunchtime because of it. I don't notice a lot of arts, and I think that a lot of time is going towards this. And to me, it seemed like a symptom of a suffering curriculum. And when I was a kid, I only needed to take my standardized test based on the one class I was being taught. Why do we need a whole extra class? What's wrong with our one class?
I need you to respond.
Sorry, I just wanted to explain.
Yeah,
it to you.
I wanted you to explain further, because
Okay.
I didn't understand you. So, I guess this is
Sorry.
part of the response is asking you the question and trying to find out more so about it. Now, so the issue is that we're focusing on a lot of testing, right? It's focusing on a lot of testing. Unfortunately, this is the new world that we live in. When I spoke to Mr. Garrido and I spoke to the man, one of the things that they mentioned is the Common Core is here, Park Test is now going to be here this school year, and this is what we have to basically work with. This is what we have to deal with, and this is how the system is going to be structured so that they can do well on these tests. Now, I don't think that's excluding what we can do with other things. I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I don't think that we can say, okay, we're going to prepare this block for testing, but yet eliminate this. I think that we can possibly find some balance when we can have both. I can't give you a definitive answer on how that will go, but in my response to you is, I think that's something that we can look into. We can look into making sure that the arts remain into the system. We can look into making sure music remains into the system. Because in order to have a child that's fully rounded, you need these things. You need music. You need art. Yes, you need gym. You need all of these things combined along with the testing in order to have a complete student. So my answer to you is, if you do support me and I do get on the board, this is something I'm going to look into so that we can have balance of, one, the testing because it's here to stay, and having arts a part of the program.
This is the last question, Mr. Woodruff. Got one?
Well, I'm going to address it. My notes. You said that the streaming of the meetings is part of what you've been doing.
talk to their neighbors and I encourage them to say, it needs not be, people, is there a way to link so that I can find this screening program by going to the Roselle Park website and then going to, make it simple so that folks.
Yes, okay. So what I'm trying to do in this overall process is to try to make it as simple as possible for everybody to find the information that they need. The website, when I joined the board, was not the easiest to navigate, and that's an understatement. So I've been trying to clean that up, and that's still in the process. The meetings that get live streamed, they get recorded. They also get recorded by the district, and they are placed on the district homepage so that you can watch them after the fact. So it's not live at that point, but you can still, yeah. But yes, it is there, and it's, again, this is an ongoing process to make it easier to get to those pages. They are there. If you don't know where to find them, I will personally show them to you because...
You don't want to say that. You're going to regret that.
Well, only because it is important for the community to be able to find that information. I'm trying to cover all those bases, and I mean, I still have a lot of bases to cover. So,
May I make a suggestion that this is a possibility of a way to get the information out is get the PTAs in each district area. Either in one way or another, and I don't know what it would be, but locally to get some system going where we know that PTA website where they know how to get us somehow. I mean, there's so many connections going on in the school. It's mind-boggling. But we're not getting information.
Right.
It's not getting where, when I was in the PTA, I was here at a meeting and I would know what was going on at the program. But because I'm not there anymore, there would be a way that just gave me my email address, please send me, or, somehow link this all up so that we know when those things are going on.
we'll certainly look into every possible avenue to make sure that everybody in the community gets the information.
Has the option to do.
Yeah.
Could I address Ms. Woodruff?
Yeah.
I know that was for Ms. Few. Do you mind if I address? But, first of all, thank you for coming out. I mean, I know your children haven't been in school for a few years, and I know your grandkids are still running around Bender, all right, every once in a while. And but you raise a valid point because communication, it's our first goal for 2014-2015, which we carried over, but we changed it a little bit. But communication is key. Getting word out to folks who don't have children in the system anymore is so important. And I mean, as far as meetings, science fairs, I mean, I'm sure you'd love to come and see and bring the grandkids over and check it out. I think that would be great for you to do. And I think one thing that I would like to do that I'm going to take away and I'll get back to you on this is we have an all-call system in the district, and I don't know if it could work for citizens as well. I mean, where you could get a message that, oh, there's a PTA meeting or there. I mean, but I'll have to research that too, because getting a phone call I think would be helpful.
Even as a way of informing, like, I have a few friends, we have emails that we try to share, like that general global thing. Once you get the word out, you know how to get where they need to go. You got it out. You don't have to do this all the time. I know to say, go here.
Absolutely, but I think it's...
How about you talk to me and Janine after? We'll work with you on the PTA stuff. And get it out, okay?
Now you're in trouble.
I don't make cupcakes either.
That's okay.
I have never done that.
But just to finish up, connecting with the folks who don't have children in the system is very, very important because you're affected as well. Property, taxes, you said, Mr. Woodruff, and you know what's going on. If you know what's going on and what the wonderful things that are going on, like we talked about earlier or tonight, I mean, then you're more apt to be even more supportive of our system and our children. So that's a great point that you're raising that, and I will get back to you on that.
You don't want to hear one of those comments?
I think they basically outlined.
Good? Okay. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to have closing statements by each of the candidates. We're going to start with Sunjata and move down that way. And then after, please come and ask us any questions.
Okay, one of the key things that I heard tonight was listen to the community, be a steward. All those things, I think so far I've done. I'm accessible. I go door to door. I'm on the I'm on the internet, I'm in all the social groups, I post there, I answer there, I listen to people when I'm out in the community, I hear what they say they want to do, I'm out there. So if you support me and I get elected, these things will continue. Now when you see my name, you recognize the face. Because even if I haven't seen you at your door, I've left my flyer. You've probably seen this somewhere. Even if I didn't leave my flyer at that particular time, I've been back. I work during the day, I have a family, but I still find time to do this because I'm passionate about it. No one's getting paid, it's not a paid position, it is strictly volunteer. And I've volunteered my time so far, I've volunteered to get my message out because this is important. My child education, your children's education is important. And it's important to me because education has done a lot for me. So for that passion, when I'm out there with my trusty book bag, and I'm walking, and I'm knocking, and people are opening the door, and people are saying, not now, or people are saying, I don't want to hear about voting, or when people invite me into their homes. These are the things that being a steward within the community is, and this is what I am trying to do as much as possible to get the Board of Education message out there, to ensure that when we are involved in education, the entire community is involved in education. Because even if you don't have the children that's in the system, you're still paid into the system. And that's what ultimately I want to do, to let people know that the Board of Education is important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again for coming out. Thanks to the PTA and PTOs for putting this together. When I joined the board 2 years ago, I promised you two things. I promised your students come first, and I promised I would be willing to roll up my sleeves and do whatever needed to be done to get the work done. The only thing I'm going to promise now is that I'm going to continue with that ethic. I am going to be committed to doing the things that need to get done so that our students can achieve. I'm going to work hard every time to be a good board member, to listen to the community, to listen to the students, and I'm going to do everything that I can to engage the community more so that we're doing this together. Thank you again for everybody, for coming out.
I'm going to be really short because I've been eyeing those brownies. I didn't have dinner and I'm starving, and they look so good. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. I think it speaks volumes, to a community that you want to come out and get information to make an informed decision, right? So, thank you to each and every one of you, to the PTAs and the PTOs for putting this together. I think it's a great venue, and I would like to see it, moving forward. In other elections, maybe something with the mayor, the mayor candidates, right? And future school board, elections, and so on and so forth. My only motivation, my only reasoning for even running for the Board of Education is because I believe in community and I believe in being involved in the community in which I live in. Whether it's sitting on the Board of Education where I think I can make an impact, I truly do. I bring the skill set of strategic planning, gap analysis, a host of other skills that I would bring to the Board of Education. But a school board is not a board of one, right? So I think it's important that whoever is selected, that you consider how they work with others, how they collaborate, their desire to engage the community. I have a proven record just being here, for 1 year of collaborating, with stakeholders in the community, from the strategic plan. And in 2017, whether I'm on the board or not, I plan on being on the committee, right? So thank you for listening to me pontificate, to listen to all of us, just, talk about our positions and our ideas, and pick, obviously, who you think is the best fit, right? Who's going to work for you. And if you have a lawn, I have lawn signs. I have a bunch of them, and you can have one.
Is that a lawnmower?
If that's what it takes. If that's what it takes. Thank you.
She got a grandson.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out tonight.
For somebody to push one, let's put it that way.
I really appreciate you guys, and this is wonderful, and I thank the candidates for coming in. It's great that we have 4 candidates coming for running for 3 positions. And in close, I just wanted to say, in my 5 years on the board, it's been a long, challenging, but fruitful journey, and I want to continue that journey. We have so much to be proud of, but so much to look forward to. And we've been making changes little by little. I wish I had a magic wand that could satisfy everyone and make us, just the best overnight. But that doesn't happen in the reality of education. There's so many things, there's so many factors that you need to deal with. And patience is a virtue. And also collaboration is a virtue. And working with a board that we have right now is very good. And the best decision that we ever made collaboratively was to hire Mr. Garrido. Mr. Garrido has come, he's only been here like 16 months now, 15 months. I remember when I called a meeting for the board to pass Mr. Garrido, approve his contract at 7 o'clock in the morning at the auditorium. And he was there, and we did it, and it was a rough road. Some people didn't agree with it. There was miscommunication, but we did it because it got him into the school district 2 weeks earlier than if we waited for another meeting. So I'm doing what we need to move this district forward, and we have so much to be proud of. And like I said, with the offering, the AP courses in the high school, the working with NJIT, and also with Kane, and the wonderful work of our teachers here in the high school, and how it's going to trickle down, and how it's going to the middle school, and eventually the elementary schools as well. That's in the works. That's in the process. That's not something new. Okay, we're working on it. In close, I've been here 5 years, and 2 years as president. My 100% attendance record at every meeting that I missed saying goodnight to my children and reading to them at night was, that's my dedication. That's my skin in the game. I'm here for a long time, and because I want our children to succeed in Roselle Park, and I would like you to consider voting for me in November. Thank you.